It's not a day that goes by where we aren't expecting her to walk back through the front door. Our lives have been torn apart through this loss. No amount of time in prison can bring Megan back.
You got something in your ear?
This case exposes one man's dark secrets as he carries out a betrayal of the worst imaginable kind. Viewer discretion is advised for this educational documentary. Welcome or welcome back to Dark Case Documentaries. I bring you true crime, disturbing stories and other things that you may later regret knowing with regular uploads every week. Please do join the quickly growing, incredibly supportive Dark Case family by hitting subscribe now and turning on notifications. Remember, choosing to be kind can save a life in many ways. Thank you so much for choosing to be here with me. Our love and respect goes out to those that knew and loved Megan and all those affected by this case. Megan Newborough was a 23-year-old from Nuneaton, UK. She was part of a really tight-knit family and had a close group of friends. One friend described her as a 1 in a million person. She always had a smile on her face and found a positive in people. She worked in the HR department at Ibstock Brick, a company who, funnily enough, manufactured bricks. It wasn't the most exciting job in the world, but she got on well with her colleagues and enjoyed going to work every day. She was doing really well at work, she was well liked, and she was looking at a promotion. She was just about to get a house and she had everything to look forward to. Her mum would describe her as a magnet. Everyone was drawn to her. This included her colleagues. In fact, she had just started seeing someone who worked in the lab at Ibstock Brick. Everything was falling into place for Megan. On Friday the 6th of August 2021, Megan had set off from her parents' home in Nuneaton. It was around 7:30 PM, but it was still light outside. It was the middle of summer and she was making the most of it. The summer before was filled with unprecedented lockdowns, but this year was different. She was living her life to the fullest. She jumped in her car, a white Citroen C3. Her departure was caught on her family's Ring doorbell as she drove off. She had told her family she was off to meet a friend from work for a walk and would be home before dark. This was kind of true. Yes, she was off to meet a friend from work, but it wasn't for a walk. The two had been seeing each other for 6 weeks or so, and he had the house to himself for the evening. He didn't live far, and they had been getting on like a house on fire. Megan was excited, and so was he. As she said goodbye to her family, no one anticipated it would be for the final time. By the next morning, Megan hadn't returned home. Her family was starting to worry. This wasn't like her. Not at all. She wouldn't stay out all night, at least not without calling first. Something about this didn't feel right. Her parents reported her missing to Warwickshire Police at 12 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday the 7th of August. They told the police the last they knew was that she'd gone for a walk with a man from work called Ross McCullum. Ross was a 30-year-old laboratory assistant who was living with his parents on Windsor Close in Colville. Windsor Close is a quiet street, a nice street. Nothing untoward happens on Windsor Close. A few hours later, the police arrived at Ross McCullum's parents' house. They were looking for Megan or any information on her whereabouts, but they came up short. There was no sign of Megan, or for that matter of Ross. Ross wasn't home. Instead, he was in Loughborough, but his dad helped the police to get him on the phone.
Hi, is that Ross?
Hi, it is Ross, yeah.
Hi Ross, my name's Mia, I'm a police officer with Warwickshire Police. Hello. We've just come to your mum and dad's house. We're just looking for Megan, she's been reported missing. Have you seen her at all?
She came on Friday, I've been trying to call her loads.
Have you?
She came on Friday for about an hour.
Yeah.
Then she left about 9ish.
Okay.
I went to McDonald's.
Yeah.
And then she said she gave me a call or a text when she got home. She never did.
She never did. Okay. So you haven't seen her since yesterday about, was it 9:30 you said?
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Okay. And where are you at the moment?
I'm in Loughborough right now.
You're in Loughborough. Okay. What are you up to in Loughborough?
Sorry?
What are you up to in Loughborough?
I'm just having a few drinks in
Oh,
Loughborough.
yeah. Okay. No worries. Whereabouts are you?
You know where the Griffin is?
I'm a Warwickshire officer, so I have no idea whereabouts anything is, but I can sure find it. Is it the Griffin, is it?
It's right next to Sainsbury's.
Loughborough. Okay. Near Sainsbury's. Do you know the road name or anything like that?
I don't, if I'm honest with you. I'm walking down there now as we speak.
Yeah.
But,
Are you in a relationship, you and Megan?
yeah, we've been seeing each other. She's HR at work. I work with her.
Yeah.
We've been seeing each other for about a month, and supposed to go out of her house this weekend.
Yeah.
Her mum and dad are out. She had her mum and dad are out the house and supposed to be going around, but she never turned up today. She was supposed to meet me at like 12 o'clock.
Right. And did she say anything of where she might be going or where she might be?
All she said was she was going to go to. She's like going to McDonald's on the way home to get like a vanilla milkshake.
Yeah.
That's it.
And she didn't say where she'd be going today. All she said is that she'd meet you.
Well, no, she said she couldn't stop mine. She was going to stop last night around mine, but she said she couldn't.
What? How come she didn't stop? Just being nosy.
Sorry?
Bear with me 1 second. Sorry, my sergeant's just ringing. Go ahead, Sarge. Will do, no worries. I'm just speaking to Ross on the phone at the moment. I'll give you an update shortly. Yep, already done. Sorry, Ross. It's just my sergeant ringing me. So she said that she couldn't stop last night. Did she say why she couldn't stop?
No, well, when I texted her to say if she wanted to, she said she couldn't. She never went into detail, no.
She just said she couldn't stop, and then she came round after that.
I think it's because her mum and dad didn't know that I was going to be coming round.
Okay.
And I don't think she wanted them to know.
Okay.
Have you not heard anything from her at all?
Nothing at all.
I've sent her about, that sounds really creepy, I've sent her about 15 WhatsApp messages. She said she was going to call me when she got home or text me or something. I've sent her loads of like WhatsApps and I've rang her up loads.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you're obviously worried about her.
Yeah. But she's honestly, she's lovely, she is. I work with her, she's HR, she's a really nice person.
Yeah.
I am really worried.
Have you known her for a long time?
I've known her for a couple of years. Then we started seeing each other, so I'd say more like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
3 months ago we really started seeing each other.
Yeah.
But then we started, it was going to become quite, well, she bought a house in Ibstock and it was going to be a bit more serious, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So, do you know if she, I mean, I know you say you've gone to Loughborough. Does she know anybody in Loughborough?
Not that I'm aware of, maybe, I don't know. She's got loads of friends, I don't know.
Not that you're aware of. Okay. Okie dokie. And what vehicle do you drive, Ross?
Sorry?
What vehicle do you drive?
My company?
What car do you drive?
I don't drive.
You don't drive? Okay.
No, I don't have to drive.
Oh, bless you. Okay. Okie dokie. I mean, I appreciate I've probably ruined your night out now by worrying you.
No, honestly, I was worried anyway. I wasn't really on a proper night out, I wasn't.
No.
I just wanted to get out. I was really worried earlier. I was probably mum and dad.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not like her to do it. It's really, I don't know if you've spoken to the family. It's not like her to do this.
No, they're really worried about her as well.
Yeah.
So, okay. Are you planning on coming home soon?
I'll be home tonight. I can go. I'm at Sainsbury's now.
You're at Sainsbury's now? Okay.
In Loughborough.
Okay. Alright then. If you wouldn't mind, I've just got some other bits to do. I need to speak to my control room and stuff like that. Are you planning on staying there for a bit then, are you?
I can come back whenever you want me to. I can get a taxi, or my dad can bring me home.
Yeah, okay. Let me give you a ring in 5 minutes. I just need to sort some details out and stuff, and I'll give you a ring back if that's okay, Ross.
Okay, thank you very much.
Alright, no worries. I'll speak to you shortly.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, bye.
Ross's recollection of the evening that he gave the police was very precise, some would say overly detailed. With Ross's information, the police began to pursue a number of different leads. Whilst they did this, Megan's family were doing some tracking all of their own. Using an app, they were able to trace Megan's current phone location and wasted no time in going to find their little girl. In the moment, this must have brought some relief. However, the relief quickly turned to dread as they retrieved her phone. Megan's phone was pinging on Hermitage Road in Whittick. It was deep inside a large overgrown hedge surrounded by brambles at the side of the field. Megan was, in this way, a typical 23-year-old girl. Leaving her phone anywhere, let alone abandoned in a hedge, was just out of the question. Something sinister must have happened. Less than 13 hours after she was reported missing, the police made an arrest. At 11:35 p.m. on the 7th of August, Ross McCullum was arrested on suspicion of kidnap. This is real police body cam footage from that arrest.
I'm DC Gallagher from Warwickshire Police. At this moment in time, we have reason to suspect your involvement in the disappearance of Megan Newborough, and as a result, I'm arresting you on suspicion of kidnap. So you do not have to say anything. In a Mayhem defence, you don't want to mention one question, something which you may later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given in evidence. So I'm just going to put some handcuffs on you, alright? You can. I'll put these on first.
So you're downstairs then?
Yeah, that's fine, no worries. Can you feel that, yeah?
Yeah.
We've got a bit of room in it. Okay. In relation to Megan, can you tell us where she is? You got something in your ear? What is it? Okay. Ross, in relation to Megan, can you tell us where she is? Say again. Talk down the police station. Can you tell us here, just quietly?
This is Woodhouse Eaves.
Woodhouse Eaves. What is that?
It's near Loughborough.
Near Loughborough. What is it though? What kind of location is it?
It's on Charlie Road.
Charlie Road. Whereabouts? In the lay-by. Okay.
He's going to call me this tomorrow morning.
Is she alive? No? Okay. Right, do you want to come with us? Yeah.
Police officers were immediately dispatched to the area. Sadly, they found Megan in a remote area underneath an overgrown hedgerow, treated with as much respect as her mobile phone. Ross McCullum was further arrested on suspicion of murder. The officers found Megan's abandoned car at around 2 AM on Sunday the 8th of August. Megan's blood was found on the passenger side of the car and on the outside. Nearby, they found her blood-stained car keys. The car was the last piece of the puzzle. On the 10th of August 2021, Ross McCullum was charged with Megan Newborough's murder. He confessed immediately. He filled in the blanks for the police. Megan had met Ross at his parents' house, but something had gone wrong and he flew into a rage. He strangled her but then panicked. Unsure whether or not she had passed away, he used a sharp implement to cut her throat. He used sheets and fancy dress clothes to mop up the blood. He grabbed a change of clothes from the end of the banister and at around 9 PM he put Megan in her own car. He didn't have a license, but he also felt like he didn't have any other options. He drove her car and her body to nearby locations. He dumped Megan partially clothed over a wall on Charlie Road. He then threw her phone into a hedge off Hermitage Road and then abandoned her car outside a fitness centre in Loughborough Loughborough College car park shortly before 10 PM. In this car park, he also dumped his blood-stained clothes and the clothes he'd used to clean up the scene in a skip. This is the real CCTV footage that you're seeing. He then got a taxi home, but he asked the driver to drop him off some distance away from his house. He got in the door at around 10:45 PM. They had the timeline, but they didn't have the motive. The real question here was why. Why had Ross ended the girl that he was seeing? What had gone so terribly wrong on that night? Ross said that it was due to childhood trauma. He tried to plead guilty to manslaughter using a defense of temporary loss of control. For this, there needs to be a qualifying trigger, some kind of event that was sufficient enough to cause him to lose control of his actions, of his mind. Ross said that Megan was talking to him about the future. He felt uncomfortable and told her to shut the up. She slapped him playfully on the side of the leg. Then, in a way of coming onto him, she pulled him closer and said, "Come here." This "come here" was enough. He claimed to trigger memories of events that had happened in his childhood, and this sent him into a blind rage. At that point, he attacked her first with his hands and then with a sharp implement. He was scared that she might wake up and then tell people what he had done. However, these reasons weren't enough. His plea offer wasn't accepted. The Crown Prosecution Service, or CPS, argued that it didn't qualify as a trigger. While the defense had a doctor to back up Ross's claims that he had lost control due to his PTSD, there were questions raised about when this PTSD episode would have stopped. If he lost control when he first attacked her, had he regained it when he decided to get the sharp implement? There were too many questions. The case would go to trial. In November 2022, the case began. The prosecution presented their evidence. Megan had arrived at Ross McCullum's home for a nice evening with the man that she was seeing, but within 40 minutes of arriving at the address, she was no longer breathing. The autopsy concluded that pressure to the neck was the cause of her untimely end. However, he also ran a sharp implement across her neck, not something that could be explained as any kind of accident. If that wasn't intent, I don't know what is. The prosecution argued that each of his actions were calculated decisions and that he was fully aware of what he was doing. Cell tower data from the day after Megan disappeared showed that he had retraced his steps from the night before. Maybe he was checking for evidence, or maybe he was reliving the moment. It also showed that as he retraced his steps, he passed within 100 yards of Megan's brother, dad, and other family members, all while they were out looking for Megan's phone. The prosecution had a theory. It was pointed out in court that Ross and Megan had met up the previous weekend at a woodland for an intimate encounter, but it hadn't gone to plan. Shortly after, Ross ordered some special pills online. These pills are typically used to treat male performance issues. I'm sure you can piece together what happened in the woods for yourself. The prosecution suggested that Ross attacked her in a blind rage because he had been humiliated. Ross replied that whereas he did feel humiliated when they were in the woods, he didn't strangle her there. He was adamant he would never do something that awful just because he was humiliated. The prosecution pressed on. Did it turn you on when you had your hands around her neck? You were trying to take her head off, weren't you? You were trying to dismember her body. Ross denied the accusations, but the prosecution kept on. Not helping his case, while he was on remand, a prison warden heard him joking with other inmates, saying that if he had gone a bit further, he'd have taken her head off. He also bragged to a cellmate about using the sharp implement and suggested he would use his mental health as a tool at trial. Thankfully, all of this was used against him. With his confession, no other suspects, and his statements whilst in custody, the case was practically open and shut. The final nail in the coffin was his own mobile phone. Having gone through his WhatsApp conversations with Megan, the police discovered that their conversations quickly changed from largely innocent to overwhelmingly and extremely intimate in nature. There became a point where the tone of Ross's messaging became increasingly distorted and unpleasant kinks emerged. He demanded that Megan addressed him as Lord Commander in fantasized scenarios. I'm sorry guys, but that really made me laugh and I had to do a few takes of that line. Lord Commander. That's ridiculous. Back to the case. The rest of Ross's phone history is just as damning. Not only does it show what was going through his mind, but also the level of deceit. When Ross got home from disposing of Megan's body and belongings after 10 PM, he sent her a text. "Did you get back okay, baby?" At 11:18 PM, a few hours after he'd ended Megan, he googled how to tell a girl you love her. Just minutes later, he left her a voicemail in which he said, "You haven't rang back or text me or anything, it's probably nothing. You fell asleep. I had a fun time earlier. I'm guessing you've gone to bed or your phone has died. I'll talk to you in the morning and then we can go around yours." In the next hour and a half, he browsed various YouTube channels and websites. He looked up the weather forecast. He asked what club soda is. He googled the serial killer and kidnapper Levi Belfield, and then at 6:30 AM the next morning he was back online. Again, he looked for more details on Levi Belfield, then the news, and then it was on to more adult websites. He texted Megan's phone saying, "Morning baby," and a few hours later he phoned her, pretending to be concerned. Then he went back to researching serial killers. Ian Huntley, Harold Shipman. At some point, he searched up Category A prisoners. Who cuts your hair in prison? How do you pay? His mental state was clear, guilty, worried, and already accepting that jail was inevitable. The prosecution asked Ross about him looking at adult websites after ending Megan, to which Ross laughed. "I'm being completely honest, I know how bad it makes me look." He went on to explain that he was using adult material as escapism for what he'd just done. But for him, there was no escaping of what was to come. The prosecutor asked Ross if he thought the cover-up messages were worse than the murder. In short, Ross said yes. He wasn't in control of the murder, but he was in control of the cover-up. The defense, however, tried to paint a very different picture to that of the prosecution. On the 8th day of the trial, they brought up his childhood trauma. Ross was allegedly by Stephen Beedman, a man who violated and then ended Measham's schoolgirl Kaylee Haywood in 2015. A witness who Ross had confided in was called to testify. Speaking to the jury, he said, "I asked him at one point if he knew the individual who had him. He said there were 3 of them. 1 had ran away, but 2 remained." But for the court, the trauma story wasn't enough. On Monday the 12th of December at Leicester Crown Court, following a trial spanning 6 weeks, he was unanimously convicted of murder. He has never given a full explanation of why he ended Megan, or at least not one that really makes sense.
Megan's brother, John, spoke outside court after the sentencing.
It's difficult for me to put into words how it felt when it became apparent Megan was missing. We found her phone, or when we were told her body had been recovered. It's a feeling I wouldn't wish upon anyone. It's not a day that goes by where we aren't expecting her to walk back through the front door. We're a very close family, of which Megan was the glue that held us together. Our lives have been torn apart through this loss. I know how difficult it's been for my parents and sister to sit at court every day, listening to the web of lies spun by someone Megan not only knew, but whom she trusted, someone who clearly had no love for her at all. We're the ones now serving a life sentence. No amount of time in prison can bring Megan back. We have to carry on with our lives as best as we can, but Megan will never leave our thoughts. Meg was an exceptional person through and through. She was and is loved by all who knew her, and was nothing but pleasant to those she came into contact with. She had a whole life ahead of her. She was about to buy her first home and was excited for everything she had coming up. She was so eager to start the rest of her life, she ended up losing the one she was living.
On Friday the 16th of December, Ross was sentenced to life with a minimum term of 23 years. No sentence will bring Megan back, but her family can go to bed at night knowing that the sadistic killer is, for now, behind bars. Do you think the punishment fits the crime here? What do you think could be done to avoid something like this happening again in the future? Let me know down in the comments. Please do hit like if you appreciate what I'm doing here. Thank you to everyone in the Dark Case crew. You too can become a channel member for just 99p. A huge thank you to my patrons. Your support is making a massive difference. You too can support my work and be thanked in every video for just $5 per month. So thank you to Rachel David, Kathy Green, David James, Adi Alexander, Karen Jones, El Palmieri, James Harrington, Shane Woodward, Faster River, Stacey Krogerus, Summer Chambers, Mona Corona, Cepheid Variable, Anthony Watson, Jason Coward, Guardian Paler, Jeremy Sebranek, Joy Burton, Dawn Croc, Michelle Mims, Natalie Lundquist, and Darlene. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.